Hello and welcome to a brand new season of Raising Healthy Mothers. We are in season 15 now, which is absolutely incredible. I have been doing this podcast now for over 5 years and I'm just stoked to still be here. So today's episode is going to be all about the fact that the self-care you're trying to do just doesn't fit in your season of motherhood right now. So if you are listening in from the UK, perhaps your kids have just gone back to school, maybe it's been a couple of weeks now, and you are just finally getting back into the swing of life, routine, school. Back from school holidays can often bring up a lot of changes in how we feel about ourselves and how we want our days to look. And I think as we go through motherhood, as our children grow and our circumstances change, which happens year on year, we realize that we can change too. We can stop clinging on to a concept of being a mother that maybe served us in the past, but doesn't need to anymore. And I think this is no more true than when we talk about self-care. Now, I do have a real difficult relationship with the word self-care, and I'm only using it here because I know it's the most kind of easily understood and accepted idea around the fact that as a mother, particularly, you do need to look after yourself as well as all of your children. And it's only in the last few years that I really came to understand the fact that what someone's idea of self-care is doesn't have to be mine. And in particular, if that someone is not in the same season of life as me, maybe they're not a mother, or maybe they're in a different stage of motherhood than me. And in fact, if I'm honest, and, you know, my children are now 6 and 4. And when I think back to how things were when they're babies, it's actually quite hard to remember. And you know that whole thing of how we're like, why didn't anyone tell me that it was going to be like that? Well, quite frankly, now that I'm well beyond that newborn stage, I actually genuinely can't remember. Or rather, I can remember, but I can't remember the exact minute by minute, second by second struggles that it probably does feel like to you. And so when we sort of start kind of coming out of that newborn fog or coming out of that bubble and finally kind of being aware of the world around us, and suddenly we start being confronted with the idea that we should be like practicing self-care and going on date nights with our partners, or, you know, going out and doing our own things. And we try and do that. But of course, our babies might still be in the middle of the 4th trimester, or maybe they're still just very, very clingy. Like my eldest son was very, very much in need of my attention for well beyond that newborn phase. It made me realize that self-care, from what other people think should look like, just was never going to work for me in those early days. And again, when they became toddlers, or when I became a mum of 2, things change, and then they start school and there's that routine of getting up and having to be somewhere at a certain time and all these expectations and responsibilities. You realize how things change. And self-care changes because you change, your circumstances change, your routine change, but also your own energy changes. And sometimes that's because you have put in the work to change that energy, or you have just waited it out until such a time when your children are sleeping better and you're finally able to feed yourself better. Your needs and your kids' kind of needs as well obviously change, and that is going to change your own dynamics on your energy and your ability to kind of practice self-care. So if you are listening today, it's because I know you're ready for that next shift, that change as well. You know that something has to change. You know that you're ready to actually make that change, and you need help thinking about what that next right step is. Now, as I said, self-care just isn't static. It's totally seasonal. As your kids grow, what worked before just might not work now. Instead of trying to hold on to these old routines or this kind of idea that I should be doing this certain thing, it's about adapting. And this is true as well in the early days. Rather than thinking that, oh, I should be doing this as my morning routine, I should be doing that, I should be making the most of this, I should be doing this when the baby naps. Think about your own season of life and think about what actually is going to work. And I think there are 2 lenses to think about when it comes to thinking about the season of life that you're in. So there's the motherhood season, thinking about what stage of children are you in? Are they newborns? Are they toddlers? Are they preschoolers? Are they at school age? Each stage demands different energy from you, and therefore different ability and capability of putting in time for yourself. And then there's also thinking about the time of year season. So obviously we've just come out of the summer holidays. So likelihood, if you're like me, your energy is actually quite high. Although you might have felt like the whole 6 weeks of the summer holidays has taken it out of you. Now that they're back at school, now that routine has started, perhaps your energy is starting to pick up again and you're ready to kind of put some time and some energy into you. And for me, that self-care definitely mirrors those school holidays. At every 6 weeks, I know that there is going to be that kind of increase in energy as school starts again, routines have returned again, and then it starts going down again. That energy starts going down again towards the end of that first half term, where, that kind of actually being in that routine of having to get up early every single day and being somewhere and having to get somewhere on time starts kind of depleting you, and you're like, okay, I'm actually ready for a holiday now. And then you've got your half-term holiday or end-of-year holidays or whatever it is your holidays look like. You might notice that you do have that natural kind of roller coaster of energy, because it starts off quite high and suddenly you're depleted again. And that really does go like that, in that kind of roller coaster way. So you might have that, after summer holidays, which is where we are now. You might have that during the Christmas holidays, and that's even more because you've got that energy of having to celebrate Christmas in a certain way that makes you feel like you are creating memories as a family and making a particular holiday season special. And then there's also the time of year seasons, and this is where we think about the fact that, as well as the kind of changes in motherhood, the year changes as well. The seasons change. We've just come away from summer, and of course alongside that we've had the summer holidays where maybe it's been really full on, maybe the kids have been at home all the time, maybe they've been very in high need and high demand of your attention. And then we're coming into autumn where, our energy might actually be feeling relatively high now that school is back and are back to our routines, or maybe just things, we're back into that kind of feeling of we can reset. I think this is maybe a throwback to our own childhood or our own kind of school years where, the year really starts in September. And so we get that feeling of the reset. Autumn is a time for reset. And then we come into winter, and it's that hibernation of winter. Winter is a time for kind of taking it easy, slowing down, having a rest, taking it slow. That's what winter is all about. And then, of course, that renewal in spring, that's kind of starting up of, the flowers are blooming, things are coming up, the weather is changing, it's getting warmer. And all of those kind of changes in season really changes our energy as well, and our ability to look after ourselves, as well as what we can actually do to look after ourselves. Maybe in spring and summer and early autumn, we can get out for lovely walks outside. But, as we get into autumn and winter, that starts being harder because it's dark or it's cold or whatever it is. And of course, alongside all those seasons, we've got all of the school holidays and that natural kind of peaking and troughing of energy there. So yeah, we've got these two seasons to think about, the exact season of motherhood that you're in, but also the kind of seasonal year, the seasons that the years goes through. So what does this all mean when it comes to self-care? Well, I do think it's important to reflect and consider what season you're in, whether it's motherhood or time of year season, and just think about, well, what does that actually mean for the energy I have that is going to fit for the season I'm in? So ask yourself, when it comes to the season of motherhood, how much sleep are you actually getting? How often am I being woken up? How needy are the children right now? If they're toddlers or they're preschoolers, they need you so much. They still need your help on the toilet. They still need your help getting dressed. They still need reminding to kind of go do the next thing. And of course, what are your children like? Your children are going to be so different from my children and the children of the person next to you, or of that influencer who doesn't have children at all, of course. So that is all going to be affecting you as well. And then what does daily life look like? Is there that routine of going to school and getting ready and having to do all of that and pickups and drop-offs and all of that? Or actually, do you home educate? Is there a lot more flexibility in your day? Is there a more ability to kind of fit yourself into your day? Or are you in throes of early toddler years where maybe things do look very different? Maybe you're returning to work, maybe you've got childcare sorted, or maybe you're trying to juggle all of that yourself. Your answers are really going to shape what self-care feels realistic to you, to your season, to you personally. And that's why I've titled this episode, Stop Copying Self-Care That Doesn't Fit in Your Season of Life, because there's no point listening to someone who says that you should be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and journaling and meditating and doing yoga and, strength training and going out for a run and going out for a walk and going out in nature and doing all of these things that, you get all this pressure to do. If you are being woken up 10 times in a night, being woken up every 45 minutes, it is not realistic in your season of life. And don't feel guilt. If you see another mother who is getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and feeling amazing because she gets this 2-hour routine in, good for her. But that doesn't mean you have to do it. It might mean that you could do it in a few years' time, but you don't have to feel the pressure to do it now. Do what feels right for you. And I always say sleep comes first. So if right now your sleep is very broken, you're woken a lot in the night, you are being kept up a lot in the night, or you have to wake up really early, then this is not the season for early morning wake ups. This is the season for lying in as much as possible. So with that in mind, once you know what season you're in and what realistic self-care might look like, choose a 5-minute action that matches your season. So for example, if you are in the newborn season, keep a bottle of water and maybe some handy snacks by your bed, because that is your act of self-care, making sure you're hydrated and making sure you're getting a bit of protein in whenever the hunger strikes, especially if you're breastfeeding. If you're in the toddler season, can you go outside for 5 minutes to drink a cup of tea on your own? Or can you sit by a window and look out at the clouds and just count the clouds as they go past, or make shapes with the clouds? If you're in your school-age child's term, then what can you do in 5 minutes first thing in the morning? Maybe you can get up before they get up, or maybe as soon as you've come home from the school drop-off, what can you do in 5 minutes before you start clearing up the kitchen after the breakfast chaos? And then thinking about the seasons of year, let's say that you are in autumn, which is what we're in now, early autumn. Can you set a timer for 5 minutes and just do some stretching in bed when you first wake up in the morning? Or if it's winter, can you sit with a hot drink in silence before the day begins? So just really thinking about what is the season of life I'm in, what is the season of the year I'm in, and what would make sense for me now to fit in today. It's about choosing the right thing for right now. And it's not set in stone. What you're doing right now can be so different to what you're doing in 6 months' time, in a year's time, in 5 years' time. And you don't need to worry too much about getting it right now. Just doing something that says, I choose me today, just for 5 minutes. So your action point for today is ask, what season am I in? And then think about what is that one small 5-minute activity that you can do that fits exactly into this season. Remember, this is how meaningful change happens. It's not about waiting for the perfect time to have that perfect morning routine. It's about finding the time to do 5-minute activities that mean that you're voting for you. Step by step, you will see change. Obviously, you've got to be consistent and do it for longer than you think, but you will see change once you start making time for yourself just for 5 minutes. And it is possible to start today, no matter what season of motherhood or season of life that you're in right now. So I'd love to know if this has lit something up for you. Please let me know. You can message me on Instagram as always. I am at Tasha De Cruz. And if listening to this episode has kind of lit a fire inside you, maybe you're ready to stop running on empty and actually start caring for yourself, putting yourself first in a way that fits into your life right now, into your season of life right now, then I would love to invite you to come and join my free back to school self-care week, which is happening starting on the 22nd of September. And over the 7 days, I'm going to guide you through 5-minute self-care activities that don't really feel like a chore. I promise you, they're all about adapting them to your season of life you're in right now. It's not about kind of telling you to have a 10-step morning routine. It's about finding one thing every single day that you can do in 5 minutes or less and just getting it done with support and, of course, with accountability from me and your peers. Quite a few people have already signed up. Last time I ran it was 2 years ago, so I know it's high time I run it again. I know people have been asking for it, so I'm so excited to get going in a couple of weeks' time. The link to join is in the show notes, so please join today and get ready to finally find those little pockets of time that mean you can fit a little bit of self-care into your day every single day. Thank you so much for listening to Raising Healthy Mothers this week. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now.